got to believe. You 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 got to believe.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jenna Lorenko, and I'm sending you all greetings from the ancestral homeland of the Massachusetts tribe in the town of Arlington, Massachusetts, which was first called Menotomy Village by the English, from what is believed to be the original Algonquin name for the land along the Mystic Lakes, the Mystic River, and the Alewife Brook.
Bienvenidos y bendiciones. Buenos días, buenas noches, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Mauricio Tafur Salgado y estoy con ustedes desde las tierras indígenas de los Wappinger Lenape. My name is Mauricio Tafur Salgado. Welcome to all of you. Good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is you might be streaming from. I'm streaming to you from the occupied territories of the Wappinger Lenape here on the corner of 158 and Walton in the South Bronx.
Juanina Khan Niton Paak, Juanina Khan, Natasuis Kisakuielm, Shavan, Nuikon Tam Apniat Yuat Yunakan, Katapatontama Wanamu, Katapatontama Wanamu. Good evening, everyone. My name is Siobhan Growing Elm. I am very happy to be here tonight alongside Maurizio and Jenna as members of the Representation, Equity, and Diversity Initiative for Region 1. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am a citizen, a proud citizen of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, and I live in Mashpee on the southern coast of Cape Cod here in Massachusetts. My heritage includes African and Mexican American. I am a light-skinned woman of color. I have curly gray hair, and I'm wearing a warm white turtleneck tonight. I am a language keeper and teacher of Wampanoag, a peacemaker, a storyteller, and a spiritual thinker. I acknowledge my mother tongue of Wampanoag, Wampanoag people, people of the first light, people of the dawn. I also acknowledge the mother tongue of my father's people that was stolen from Africa and still lives in my ancestral bloodline. My ancestors were here and experienced first contact when lost colonizers came to our shores. I speak today in honor of my ancestors who remind us each day that after 12,000 years, As Natayanian, we are still here. I honor my Wampanoag elders and children, and I apologize to my Indigenous elders if any errors are made in this action. At this time, we invite you all to participate in this land acknowledgement by writing in the chat, first for the Indigenous guests today, an invitation to share your tribal homelands in the chat, and for other guests on the call tonight, drop in the chat the tribe, the original stewards of the land you are on tonight. And as we do this, Mauricio and Jenna will read some of the responses aloud. We'll also put a resource in the chat if you are unfamiliar with the Indigenous tribe on whose land you are on tonight. Let's see, we got some coming in. The Narragansett.
I see the Munsi Lenape and Canarsie people.
God, Wampanoag.
Appreciate Bolton, Vermont land of the Abenaki.
He's the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts.
From the Wabanaki.
Lifting up Pawtucket, Nagahansett.
Greetings from Wappinger land.
I see many people from the Pawtucket region. And someone from the lands of the Mohican.
Mohican.
Thanks, Mark, lifting up the Algonquin, Plymouth, Massachusetts.
And Nipmuc territory, Waniken. Katapatanamu, thank you, thank you. So with this knowledge of the indigenous origins of this land, we now would like to lead with a provocation to recommit to the end of erasure and silence. So Indigenous educator, my dear friend and language dynamo, Tricia Maquino, founder of the Keres Children's Learning Center in Cochiti Pueblo, New Mexico, reminds us that solidarity necessitates reciprocity. So we'll start with a provocation for all of us to consider.
What is your relationship to this indigenous knowledge?
What is your relationship to the work being done today in the indigenous community where you live?
And what is the critical action that you will now take in relationship to all of these things?
So we've posted some resources in the chat. Thank you for participating this week. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll turn it over to Tom.
Good evening, and welcome to Festival 54 of the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival, Region 1. My name is Tom Rothacker. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm the co-chair of Region 1, as well as an assistant professor of theater arts at Kingsborough Community College. I'm zooming in from the Bay Ridge neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York, on the ancestral lands of the Lenape and Canarsie tribes. And I'm going to turn it over to Vana.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Maurizio, Jenna, and Siobhan for that wonderful welcome. My name is Vana Trudeau. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am zooming in from my home in Harwich, Massachusetts, also on Cape Cod, the ancestral lands of the Nauset and Wampanoag nations. I am an educator, an organizer, a mother, a wife, a little bit of a troublemaker at times, and a notorious adventure seeker. I teach at Cape Cod Community College, and I am the other co-chair of Region 1. And we're really grateful for your presence here this evening. As we kick off this festival, I am so excited to see the work that you have all created since we last logged in to this cyberspace together. This past year, many of you have pivoted from online asynchronous virtual productions to live masked, socially distanced productions with audiences, without audiences, COVID protocols, testing, quarantines, and more. But you've also found agency. You've named boundaries and redefined consent in the rehearsal room, on stage, and even in the classroom.
Over the past year, the Student Advisory Board has listened, learned, and helped shape the future of this festival. We're inspired by their work, and we are excited to see where this will lead. They are focused this week on recruiting new members, as 3 of the 4 current members have graduated, and they would like to take a moment to share their vision. So I'm going to turn it over to Heloisa and Bella.
Hello, my name is Heloisa. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm one of the members of the student board at Region 1, along with Bella, Justin, and Julia. We work with different program areas to make the festival focus on what it's made for, the students. But now we feel ready to pass down the torch. So besides listening to your feedback this week, we would like to invite students from all areas to join the conversation and move the board forward. No previous experience is required, only a strong desire to keep making KCCTF better for the students, commitment, and flexibility in your availability. I don't even know if that's a word, but anyway. If you're interested, or if you have a friend who's interested, or if you want to refer a friend, because we know that sometimes our friends don't want to join in because they're shy, but they deserve it. Please stop by at our room in the general meeting after the keynote and give us your contact information, and we'll talk a little bit about the details of the job and the next steps that we want to follow as Student Advisory Board. And since we represent the students, we would like to hear from you.
Hi, folks. I'm Bella. I use she, they pronouns. I go to Worcester State University, recent graduate. On behalf of the student board, I would like to invite you also on Friday to join us at 9:30 p.m. for our student tea party. Okay, to spill the tea about your experiences at KCACTF in a constructive conversation, okay, guys, with the student board to keep improving our festival. So remember, tonight at 7:30 p.m., join us and sign up to be a student advisory board member. And then Friday at 9:30 p.m., join us to spill the tea. If you can't attend either of these sessions, please feel free to reach out to us at the email address that I'm about to post in the chat. Okay, guys? All right. Thank you. And we hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Bella and Heloisa. For those that are joining us virtually for the second year, this festival may feel very different than last year's festival. We have been more intentional with the volume and the content of workshops and activities. We recognize the real impact of screen fatigue and the challenges of engaging in virtual spaces. And of course, these virtual festivals are very different than our in-person festivals. We invite your patience, excitement, and generosity when attending workshops, invited productions, and interacting with invited guest artists and with each other.
It's impossible to ignore the disruptive effects that COVID-19 has had on our lives these past 2 years. But disruption can be a powerful motivator for change. And as a volunteer organization, KCA-CTF continues to work towards greater transparency in this festival process. And this year, we've made substantive changes to how we communicate with you, the students, how we prepare respondents and selectors to provide feedback, and how we engage with independent guest artists.
Part of this process is an intentional orientation for our selectors and respondents. Each program area received a video that reviews the specific rubrics of that program, as well as an overview of our festival values. This week, we invite faculty and students to attend a special session that introduces the critical response process that is at the core of how we hope to orient responses moving forward. We've got a critical response process specialist joining us for festival. Her name is Erica R. Moore, and Erica will be leading 2 workshops about feedback, how we give it, how we receive it, and introduce us to the critical response process. A first workshop for students tomorrow at 4 p.m. and a second workshop for faculty on Friday, January 28th at 3 p.m. In addition to critical response process, we are centering 5 themes that are central to our mission. That's right. Also, for the first time, our festival is centering 5 themes that are focusing our conversations. You can find more information on these on the agenda in the virtual lobby. In particular, I want to highlight a couple of events that we've got some guests coming in from other regions. We've got Vicki Lance, the co-chair of Representation, Equity, and Diversity Initiative for Region 6, who is coming in to talk about embracing consent-based practices, in particular, theatrical intimacy, fight choreography, devising, improvisation, and more. We've got, on the theme of nurturing the whole artist, Laura Lipman and Sandy Delady, who are coming in to teach Rancho Relaxo. And this is going to be happening on Saturday, the 29th. We've got post-pandemic theater, conversation about post-pandemic theater, particular safety, innovation, and cultural shifts, which is going to be led by Sarah Locke from Region 5. And we've got fostering equitable and inclusive creative spaces with Julie Ray Mollenkamp on the 28th. We're so grateful for them and for guiding us through those conversations. So learn more, visit the agenda, become familiar with our themes, and see how they weave themselves throughout all of our events at Festival this year.
Before we introduce our keynote guest, note that we will offer a Q&A session at the end of the discussion. In the webinar format, you can use the Q&A link at the bottom of your screen to submit questions. We'll take as many as time permits. Immediately following the keynote, we invite you to log off of this webinar and join the general information session from the virtual lobby. We'll have breakout rooms where several of our program areas and members of the Region 1 team will be on hand to answer any questions about the upcoming week.
Now, it is our great pleasure to welcome tonight's keynote speaker. Michael J. Bobbitt is a theater director, choreographer, and playwright. On February 1st, 2021, almost a year, he joined the Massachusetts Cultural Council as the executive director, becoming the highest ranking cultural official in Massachusetts. Michael previously served as the artistic director of the New Repertory Theater in Watertown, Massachusetts. He has served as an associate professor at both the Boston Conservatory and Howard University. And in 2021, he was selected to join Art Equity's second cohort of the BIPOC Leadership Circle. Michael has directed or choreographed at Arena Stage, Ford's Theater, Shakespeare Theater Company, Olney Theater Center, Studio Theater, the Woolly Mammoth Theater, Center Stage, Roundhouse Theater, the Kennedy Center, and the Washington National Opera. And as a writer, his work has been chosen for the New York City International Fringe Festival and the New York and Musical Theater Festival, and his plays have been published by Concord Theatricals, Rodgers and Hammerstein Theatricals, Broadway Publishing, and Plays for Young Audiences. It is our distinct honor and privilege to welcome you, Michael, to join us this evening.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored to virtually be here with you today. I am overjoyed to be in this virtual space with so many friends, colleagues, and theater peeps, my peeps. Many thanks to the co-chairs, Vana and Tom, for having me. My name is Michael Bobbitt. I am the Executive Director of Mass Cultural Council. I use the he series pronouns. For those of you that have vision impairments, I am a Black man with a shaved head and a closely cropped beard. And I'm wearing glasses and a purple shirt because I think I look cute in purple. I've been on this planet for almost 50 years, thank you to cocoa butter. Born and raised in Washington, D.C., but I now live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, on the land of the Pequawsit, Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts people. I started my theatrical career in the first grade when I was Hansel in the third act of Hansel and Gretel, which my mom says was the best act, and she has absolutely no biases. I went to college and trade schools in the late 1900s to study European classical music, European classical ballet, and European theater. I toured the country and the world performing and then transitioned to arts management in the early 2000s. I am the newlywed to my husband, Steve, and now I get Hanukkah presents, yay. We are the fathers of our 20-year-old son, whose name is Sang, who was adopted from Vietnam when he was 8 months old. He is studying marine biology at the University of Florida, and lately he's been texting me constantly about the iPhone Max Pro 13, and I think I need to block him. I'm the brother of 7 siblings, and don't tell my siblings, but I'm pretty sure I'm the favorite child of Dorothy and James. My great aunt, Mamie Peanut Johnson, was one of 3 women who played in the Negro Leagues, which I think someone should turn into a play. My godfather was the official mascot for the Washington football team, and one of the main reasons why I do not like sports ball. My ancestry is predominantly Black, but descendants of white and Native American people. I only eat whole food plants, no meat, no dairy, no processed food, and no sugar. I'm also a recovering Idris Elba stalker. I'm glad that Britney Spears is free, and I'm addicted to TV, especially shows with drag queens on it. And lastly, I aspire to be savage, classy, bougie, and ratchet. But I'm really thrilled to be here and be asked to give the keynote address to Region 1 because I'm a theater geek through, and 2, because I'm a proud new resident of Region 1. Tonight, mostly I'm going to talk to the students, these incredible young artists, these pandemic artists, some of whom were sent home to learn while quarantining. What? Artists who wash their groceries. These historic artists. What is most remarkable about this, my young artists spelled with a capital A, is that the art you created during this time will be like none other, monumental and historic. Through all of the world's craziness, you are the artists who are romantically suffering for your art. Suffering like in the movies, like movie magic. That's the kind of thing that only happens in Jennifer Lawrence movies, right? One of the ways humans will remember and reflect on this time is through your art. When all of us are long gone and humans are riding dolphins to the theater because of climate change, your art will reflect what you saw. Your art will reflect what you felt. Your art will reflect what we are living through. Your art will reflect the human experience of this pandemic. The humans of the future with their flux capacitors and precogs and teleportation will experience your art and feel all the things that you felt. They will feel your fears. They will feel your isolation. They will feel your frustration. They will feel the weirdness of quarantine, and they will feel the back pain from all this Zooming that we do. They will also feel whatever joy you were able to conjure, because right now in this time, your cup of inspiration runneth over. Sometimes I can be accused of being a Pollyanna, only seeing the good things in the world, choosing to be grateful for the things I have, rather than stressed about the issues swirling around me. They say, and when I say they, I mean my husband, Steve. Steve says, Michael, take off your rose-colored glasses. But I say, no, husband Steve. I have wonderful and tortured artists and their magnificent creations to remind me about the wackiness of this world. This is why Steve and I collect paintings and go to museums and art shows and theater performances and stroll around town looking at public art, because I am obsessed with seeing the world through artists' points of view. To see the world through your paintings, your sculptures, your prints, your photos, your digital art, your illustrations, your plays, your films, your direction, your design, your performances, your music, your dance is visceral and profound. What a gift you are to the world. What a gift to generations of people you will be. Think of the collective power you hold. You all have the power to reflect and project the world through your art with theater. What you are and what you do is so precious. It should be cherished, heralded, and from my perspective as a funder, extremely well funded. Artists should be billionaires. Am I right? The statues in the parks should be of artists. The names of streets and rivers and towns should be of artists. Now, with these gifts comes an extremely important responsibility. You must truthfully reflect the world as you see it. You must. What we know about the past is mostly documented in art, books, poems, photos, songs, dances, visual arts, plays, and so on. Because of this, art is inherently a social justice tool. You give voice to the voiceless. You and your art can tell us how you feel about the pandemic, the racial reckoning, the political unrest, and the deterioration of the climate. What a responsibility. So how will your art encourage people to show up at the public square to confront injustice and fight for a better world? How will your art help us heal and build a better world where anti-oppression is the norm? How will your art create inclusion by being communicators to a wider audience? And how does your art elevate those who are marginalized to a place of reverence? I tell my son Sang, my incredible collegiate marine biologist, that my generation and generations before me wanted to make the world a better place. I don't think we did it. In fact, we may have made the world worse, like really, really screwed it up, right? In that blockbuster movie starring Jennifer Lawrence, which I call What the Fuck 2020s, I imagine there's a character called OG Old Testament God who spends the whole movie smiting us with plagues and floods and fires. All right, I'm gonna try some acting. I'm gonna play the role of OG God for a minute, but I really think it should be cast with Lizzo or Cardi B. Okay. My name is Michael Bobbitt. I'm reading for the role of OG God in the film What the Fuck 2020s. Why are you all being such assholes? Zap! Don't be a racist. Zap! Stop using fossil fuels. Zap! Let them vote. What? What? You're still not listening? Don't make me send locusts. And scene. I talked to my son about his responsibilities to fix the world, to finally fix it, to make inclusive, empathetic decisions that turn this world into the utopia that it can be. A world where empathy is not under attack. A world where race is revered, not feared. a world where we embrace and celebrate the cultural contributions of people of color, a world where we take good care of those who need it the most. And here's why I think we should name parks and streets after artists. What you have in your minds, your hearts, your eyes, your bodies, your hands, is something that only a few chosen people have. A few superb chosen people. You amazing artists, have the gift of imagination. And that gift is what makes the world evolve. Imagination is seeing the world differently. Creativity is bringing the imagination to life, and art is the product of creativity. Artists are the experts of imagination. This is why we must support and cultivate art. You have worked all your life to perfect the ability to imagine and see the world differently. And we need that. The world needs you now more than ever. Science and technology and politics and communities, the very existence of the human species and this planet needs you to imagine what the world can look like in the future. And then you must demand that we bring what you imagine to life. It's your planet, and you should tell us how you want to exist in it and on it. Show up at the public square with your creative minds. The modern philosopher Daniel Pink said that the 21st century represents the triumph of our creative right brain skills over the more procedural thinking of our left brain. Our right brain skills, our creative side, would represent a new golden age of creativity for both artists and ordinary people. He says, the keys to the kingdom are changing hands. The future belongs to a very different kind of person with a very different kind of mind, creators and empathizers, pattern recognizers, and meaning makers. These people, artists, inventors, designers, storytellers, big picture thinkers, will now reap society's richest rewards and share its greatest joys. He talks about the people at the forefront of the evolution of mankind. The farmers during the agricultural age, the factory workers during the industrial age, the knowledge workers during the information age, and now during the conceptual or creative age, we will be led by empathizers and creators. That's you on this Zoom. He's talking about you. The world's problems can be solved through creativity, and you are the experts. Richard Florida says there's a whole new class of workers in the US that's 38 million strong, the creative class. At its core are the scientists, engineers, architects, designers, educators, artists, musicians, and entertainers whose economic function is to create new ideas, new technology, or new content. Today, the creative sector of the US economy, broadly defined, employs more than 30% of the workforce. 30% of the workforce, more than all of manufacturing, and accounts for more than half of all wage and salary income, some $2 trillion, almost as much as the manufacturing and service sectors combined. Indeed, the United States has now entered what he calls the creative age, and to stay innovative, we must continue to attract the world's sharpest minds. And to do that, we need to invest in the further development of the creative sector, because wherever creativity goes, and by extension, where talent goes, innovation and economic growth are sure to follow. Region 1 theater artists, we desperately need you and your ideas. You are now, and most certainly our future. Use the travesties of this time to fire you up to create art that reflects what we have witnessed and projects a better tomorrow. Re-challenge our audiences to revere new work and new ideas. Reach out beyond the typical American theater standards. Take a break from Shakespeare, Williams, Miller, and all the white guys who have taken up a lot of space, space that doesn't make room for others, space that was taken by European theater people, not the world's theater people. What awesomeness have we lost out on by primarily centering one kind of theater? I will tell you simply, a lot. To expand your mind creatively, we have to spend more time expanding and generating new, not just learning, performing, and perfecting things that were created 60 to 400 years ago. What great theater could we create if we learned and practiced the viscera of Latinx or African theater, or the mindfulness of Indian and Asian theater? What if we expanded our minds by exposing ourselves to self-reflective theater, devised theater, digital theater, puppetry, shadow, marionette, micro-puppetry, world theater, theater for young audiences, outdoor theater, found space, immersive theater, theater of the oppressed, mask work, street theater, storytelling, outdoor theater, prop theater, agitation propaganda theater, dream theater, spoken word, and rap? The best linguists in the world are rap artists. You want to learn text analysis? Study rap. What kind of artists creating what kind of theater would we have if we made space to study, train, and learn from that list? The possibilities are endless. We, theater people, are mighty skilled at imagining a world differently. A playwright can have an idea, open up a laptop, put it on a document, and then shortly thereafter, assemble a team of artists to create this thing that was just an idea. It's magical. And even given this gift of imagination, the American theater only uses part of it, part of our skill set. We must use all of the parts of our imaginative brains to build the theater that we should see. And to do this, we have to realize that nothing that has been done in the American theater can be considered a sacred cow. It's a scary thought, right? And humans by nature overestimate threats and underestimate opportunities. Pioneering is inherently dangerous, but the rewards of pioneering is what makes the world evolve. And we need the world to evolve. In closing, I urge you, young theater artists, to pioneer fiercely and build the theater of the future, the theater that you want to be a part of. This is your world, and you will pass down this master art to others. So what do you want to pass down? I leave you with one final thought. When this time is over, what side of history do you want to be on? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Oh my goodness. There's so much joy in the comment section. I want to give you a moment to just see what some of the students and our guests have been saying.
Ooh, this is nice.
Yes. So let's just give a moment.
Oh, this is sweet. This is so kind. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. I think it's clear that your words have really resonated deeply. And I want to remind everyone online tonight that, this is a conversation, and a lot of the points that Michael has made are fuel for the engine, right, of this entire week and of the months ahead and years ahead. So we want to open it up to your questions. You can submit them using the Q&A feature. That's probably the easiest. You can put them in the chat. Sometimes it's hard to scroll through the chat. So if you have a specific question, but I'll start, Michael, as we wait for.
So I'm sorry, I'm just emotional by the comments and thank you. No, go ahead, start.
Yeah, no, please keep scrolling because it's great.
Yep, go ahead. Let's start. I want to hear from you all.
I think one of the challenges that I imagine our students are pondering is where do they begin, right? You know, that their education ends, that door closes, and then what? And not that you have the answer for that, because there's so many different pathways to what is next. But as someone who's taken a pretty multi-laned journey yourself, do you have any specific suggestions for what happens after that stage is crossed, right? The diploma is handed, and then what?
Well, so what I love about the world today is that we all are embracing the slash culture, right? It used to be way back in the day, you had one career path and you started that in middle school and you did that until you died, right? No one is pushing that anymore. You can have so many multiple kinds of things that you do. And I think people should embrace that. I also think that students, you should push your institutions to change it up, to add to it. And if you aren't successful with that, or on the side of that, try to expose yourself to everything that you can. If you have this set curriculum, there's nothing stopping you from getting on the internet, which is amazing. You all grew up with computers in your pockets. When we learned, we had to go to the library and check out stuff on the Dewey Decimal System. It took forever to learn, but you can learn so much stuff on the internet. So there's nothing keeping you from expanding your minds creatively. And then, once you get that degree, chart your path. That degree means a lot, because once you get that, no one's telling you where to go and what to do. You got to figure it out on your own. But if there's anyone that can figure it out, it's theater artists, because you've been training all your life to figure it out.
Michael, I just had a quick question, which I know will resonate with our students as well, and why I think you're such an amazing person to speak to this of balancing and how to marry the lives of being the creative artist and working as an administrator, right? Now, of course, you're working as an administrator within the arts, but still having how to live within both of those worlds, because it's really, really easy, as we all know, to go down one path and not follow another equally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to speak to this, and I will tell you that I didn't really design my self-care practice until I was 43, so seven years ago. I think I was really fairly unhealthy, and did not know how to set those boundaries. I will say that once I decided to focus on self-care, where I made my art my job and my life my life, when I settled on that and I was determined to practice it, I overcorrected and just practiced really hard, that all the best things that have happened in my career came about. All of the best things happened after I centered self-care. So now I spend 3 days a week. I work out with a personal trainer 4 days a week. You heard about my diet, my food habits. I take care of my skin. I have a mindfulness practice before I go to bed. I have a gratitude practice in the morning. That time is sacred. And when you set those boundaries, even if you're working as an administrator, people will work around them. They respect them. Everyone wants self-care. Most people don't practice it as much as they should. But when you do that, you will have a very balanced life. And it doesn't mean that you won't have busy times. I mean, you're doing a show, you're going to have long weeks. There might be a few days this week, but then the next week, balance it or plan to have some downtime.
That's great. Thank you. And we, as Vana and I mentioned, our conversations are going in that direction this week. And we're having those conversations about self-care and nurturing yourself as an artist. So you're speaking to that, and we're going to carry through with it this week, which is fantastic. But we should probably go to some of the questions in the chat.
While you're looking, there are so many things there's so many pressures right now in the world. And so you can't combat those pressures if you're slammed and stressed and not healthy. So it's super important. And put it on your calendar. Like, this is my self-care time. So
Awesome. Yes, we're all going to do that right after we're done tonight. That's what we're doing. Vana, I just opened the Q&A. We have a couple of questions. Why don't you go first and then we can alternate.
Okay. One question coming in from Nadell is, what was a tradition of theater that you found the hardest to let go of in order to make way for innovation?
I will tell you, classical theater. I studied a lot of Shakespeare, and Shakespeare was hard for me because I even when I was acting in it, I never felt like I was in it. And maybe that was I was a young actor and didn't fully commit to it. But I always saw myself as a white man performing Shakespeare. I never saw myself as the character that I was portraying. And so when it was time to let that go and go, that was a good set of skills, a good style to learn. But now I'm going to expose myself to all this stuff. And then like, I get called creative all the time. And I think it's because I let everything come in. I tried everything. I took this class and that class and read this book and studied that workshop and talked to this professor. And things that were not part of my culture too. That was some of the stuff, without appropriating, that was some of the stuff that really expanded my mind to the creative process.
We have a question from Allie. I don't know if you would have an answer for this, but if you're creating theater research and looking at things from new angles, would you happen to have any tips on getting published? That's a loaded question.
You mean getting a full book published or getting published in a magazine?
I think it could be published. I'm assuming it can be published in any way.
Yeah, Ali, I would say people do business with the people they know. Pick up the phone, call people, reach out to them on email, on Facebook. If you know someone that knows a publisher, have them make an introduction. All those techniques I still think are valid. I want to read some of the stuff you're writing.
And that's an area I think that the festival has room for growth, is featuring some of the, the academic work of students that's happening throughout the semester. So we should chat, Ali. Maybe you can give us some input on that.
Yeah, we need new papers too. We need new ideas. So
absolutely. A similar question from Olivia asks if you have any advice for students who want to pursue grad school.
Go for it. Go for it. What I like about grad school in most cases that the curriculum, it tends to be a little looser, where you can actually sort of pick and choose and pull things together and define what you want to study and focus in on. It's a great opportunity. I would tell you, I actually never finished any of my degrees. I have like 3 doctorates worth of training, but I did not finish any degree because I kept changing my career. I went to college to study music as a trumpeter, left there and focused on dance, and then went to theater. And always sought out the technique-based training to support the foundation that was needed to perform and to make a living. But I didn't ever finish a program.
We still invite others. Please put your questions in, because this is a really good opportunity to open up the discussion further with your questions. Here's a couple more. Tyreek is asking, he's trying to become an actor, but it's hard to overcome my shyness. That's a really also a loaded question. How did you, if that's something you came across or battled at some point in your training or whenever?
Yeah, so this is the weird conundrum with the field that we have chosen to be in, because acting is getting in front of other people and performing for them, right? That's why most of us do it. And the weird thing about it is that every single moment we're doing the thing we love to do, whether or not it's a class or a rehearsal or an audition or a performance, there are actually people judging us, deciding if they like what we're doing or they don't like what we're doing. And that requires a thick skin, right? I think that embarrassment only lasts about 30 seconds and then it sort of goes away. And so what I would say is that you have to practice it. You have to practice taking that risk. You have to practice putting yourself in spaces that make you feel uncomfortable, because sooner or later that emotion of fear will fade away. And if you can embrace the idea of taking risk and trying new things or putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, you'll actually sort of overcome it fairly quickly. And then you'll start feeling really great about trying new things. I tell students all the time. So one of the things that, this is sort of a tangent, but I tell students all the time, don't go to school and perfect the things you already do well. Go to school and work on the things you may not be really good at. And so if shyness is something that you're working on, then the opposite of shyness is risk or being adventurous. So try that and see how that works for a while.
That's great advice. Another question from a student. What is your advice? And this is related to some of the other questions we've had, but your advice on how to pursue a career in theater when you don't know where to start. And, you know, I'm also thinking of the work you do at the Mass Cultural Council in supporting community arts organizations. You know, are there resources that folks should be looking for in their community?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a theater in your community, knock on the door, make a phone call, send an email, try to get a meeting with the leadership to talk about sort of how you can get involved with their organization. I would just say, first of all, maybe you want to read up on what's happening and sort of what the theater world looks like. I still think there's a hustle that needs to happen. And the reason why I say that is because as an artist, you are the CEO, the CFO, the COO of your own company. And so you have to sort of develop that, how to run a business that is me. And that means you have to meet with people and talk to people and have lunch and maybe, I hate the idea of volunteering, but at least sort of make connections with the theaters that may be in your communities, or find other people that are like-minded and work together to come up with those steps. But plot it out. I mean, I'm a planner, so if I have something I want to work on, I'll plot out the plan and stick with the plan.
It's excellent advice. Allison asks, well, she asks and also describes, I'm lucky enough to have gone to school and be surrounded by those who are just as in love with working in the theater as I am, but others close to me don't always see eye to eye with what I do, and it can get discouraging sometimes trying to explain myself and what I want to do to them. Have you ever experienced anything like this before, and how did you overcome it?
All the time. There's a strange obsession with artists, and then a strange like, you're an artist kind of a thing. Like I said, what we do is so valuable. And if it wasn't, take art away for a day and see how those people that don't value it feel. Like, take it away. Like, let's take it all away and see how the world is. You know, finding friends that will appreciate you, I think, is a good thing. I also would say, this is one of the things I tell young people, is that this is a craft and a business, so you have to sort of know it and know it really well. But the other thing you have to do is to have a life, so that the theater is your job. And this is hard to think about when you're young, because I remember being in high school and college, and I couldn't wait to get to play practice. Like, theater was my life, right? And so I spent all day thinking about it. But at some point, it's going to shift, and theater is going to be your job. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your passion for it, but your life's going to take over, the relationships you have, the travel, the things that you do outside of theater. So maybe cultivate some of those and see how it feels to be in a room with your friends and talk about things that are not theater related. And then what you can try to do is take your friends to the theater and have meaningful conversations with them about what they saw, and they might develop an appreciation for it, and or get some new friends.
Yes, we all need the good friends. This is a little bit more of a personal question, informal question. Do you have a favorite play that you've ever done? And when I read done, that could be performed in or directed or even written, or a favorite play that you've read.
Yeah, the oh gosh, that's a hard question. That's like splitting my babies in half. I would talk about the play I like. I wrote that I enjoy. But there are two. I got the rights to Bob Marley's Estate of Songs and made a children's musical called Bob Marley's Three Little Birds, which I really love because it's not about Bob Marley. It's a modern fairy tale about a little kid who has a beautiful hair of locks, and there's a fictional character called Duppy, which is sort of the Jamaican boogeyman who chases this kid around trying to get his hair because his hair is powerful, and that's how this character gets his power. And so I just love that because it's a celebration of culture, of Jamaican culture. It's also a celebration of hair, of locks, which, you know, we don't often celebrate that. And so I love that because that. The other play that I really, really loved that I got to write was I adapted a book called Mirandy and Brother Wind into a children's musical. And Mirandy, this takes place in 1906, South Carolina, during the annual cakewalk dance. And Mirandy, who is, I think she's 10 years old, she really, really, really wants to win the cakewalk because you win a cake. Like, who doesn't like cake? And so she is determined to win this. No one in town can dance well enough to be her partner. And so she hears about the legend of Brother Wind, which is the actual wind. And she hears that he can kick up his heels and swirl and twirl. And so she thinks he could be a really great dance partner. And so she tries to capture him, and she succeeds in capturing the wind. But what she learns is capturing anyone and forcing anyone to do things that they don't want to do is not very good. So in this Black community, where it's not a show about Black-white issues, it's a show about the contributions of people of culture like cake and cakewalk, she's still learning the story of the enslavement of people. So I love those, and I think I'm excited about it. I love those. As far as performing, I don't know if I can even remember. I did a tour of Kiss of the Spider Woman. I played 12 parts. I covered 12 parts, and so I got to see that show from so many different points of view. And so that was an interesting exercise in directing and playwriting and acting, to be able to do that.
Got some serious interest in your children's musicals in the chat. Yes, That's great.
Autumn has asked, I want to take a short break from performing and study costuming and voice acting because of the overwhelming amount of shows I'm in. Live performance because less enjoyable. Will it be hard to get back into performing after I work on my other skills?
I don't think so. In fact, I think the other skills that you learn will inform you as a performer. You'll have a different kind of perspective and a different kind of knowledge. And when you study things like costume and design, you're going to be influenced by all these other things that will influence your acting. So don't feel like you are leaving something by learning something new.
Agreed.
Yeah. So a really important question. As a young actor, how do you hold your superiors accountable when it comes to respecting you and your culture without risking your career?
We have to be afraid to not speak up. That's a symptom of oppression and power dynamic. Speak up. You will feel better if you've spoken up about it. If you haven't spoken up about it and it continues to happen, you'll continue to be harmed. So speak up, use your voice. You have it, and the world is starting to respect the voices of those that have been oppressed and marginalized. So speak up.
What is something you wish you knew when you started doing theater?
That there's so much diversity in theater. There's so many other forms of theater out there. I wish I had started being intrigued by all the different kinds of theater that are out there when I started, because I think I appreciate my creativity. I can't imagine where I would be had I embraced the diversity of theater at a younger age. All that, I'm lucky to be Black and have an Asian child and a white Jewish husband, and studied dance and music and love art, as you can see, and have traveled a lot. So all that stuff informs my playwriting. I can't imagine where I would be had I embraced all that sooner.
Related to that, there's a question that asks if you have a favorite, and of course picking favorites is tough, but a favorite kind of non-Eurocentric theater.
Well, it depends on, I love puppetry, which a lot of it started in Africa and Asia. Everybody loves puppets, right? Right. I love it. I love the meta aspect of it. There's a person who is there often operating the puppet, and you just give in to the puppet having life, even though the other person's there. There are just so many things you can do with puppetry theater. I got to adapt Jumanji into a play with 5 people. And so finding a way to take this epic piece where people remembered the movie and figure out how to do it with 5 people was an awesome experience. But I did it, and because we used a motley crew of puppets, and it was very exciting.
I want to see that. Here's another, God, these are very big life questions. We have a lot of those coming, which is awesome.
Keep it coming.
What helped you realize that a career in theater was worth pursuing?
I think a career in the arts, and maybe especially theater, is a vocation. I think it calls you. I don't think you have any control over it. You might try to, like those of us that decide they love theater, but they decide to go elsewhere because they want to make money or they want to do this, that, and the other. You're going to still go see theater. You're going to still try to do community theater. So I don't necessarily know if I chose it. I think it chose me.
There's a question that I think expands on our exploration of shyness and overcoming it. But this question asks, as an actor, you're constantly entering new spaces and working with new people. How do you allow yourself to be vulnerable but safe in front of people you just met?
I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, sort of one of our modern philosophers. And I truly believe, and part of my self-care practice is embracing vulnerability. I think vulnerability is the key to happiness. And so to me, walk in a space as vulnerable as possible. And when harm happens, let that harm be in the moment harm, and deal with it in the moment. Don't take it home, don't wait, just deal with it in the moment. And the more you have a really good self-care routine, the easier it will be to deal with the harm without it affecting you. I mean, in my job as a funder, my job is to give away $35 million a year to the state, to artists and cultural groups in the state of Massachusetts. There's a lot of stuff that happens every day. But because of my self-care practice, I can deal with those things as they come. But as an actor, you have to walk into a space vulnerable. You have to be ready to live these characters. We get to know the full life of this character in 2.5 hours. So when you come in with walls, you're not serving yourself as an actor or the piece as well as you can. Vulnerability is a key to happiness. Practice it. Look at Brene Brown's YouTube clips. It'll be mind-blowing.
Do you have any advice for beginning your theater career during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much theater online to watch it, to read all the textbooks, all these acting classes and dance and music classes online. Take advantage of the technology, and everyone should embrace this, that, when we advance technologically, we don't usually go back. Nobody out there is using their iPod Touch, right?
Yeah.
We continue to move forward. So this is not a stopgap. This digital thing that we're in is not a stopgap. It will be some of what we did before and a lot of this new stuff. So embrace what we have now, use it to your advantage. There's so much stuff on the internet, more access to stuff than we've ever had before. Use it.
Yeah, that notion of taking what we are doing now and carrying it forward, makes me think of how the traditional relationship between performers and audience has shifted, and the dynamics of what we expect when we engage with a piece of theater. Do you have any thoughts on where you think that trajectory is headed?
I absolutely do. So with digital theater, everyone has a front row seat, right? In the traditional theaters, we have so many inequities. My last theater, we were working towards having general admission seating so that everyone had the chance to sit up front. So in the digital world, everyone has a front row seat. So what our responsibility is to find ways to bring back that viscera that we had in the live space to the digital world. I think we're just starting to dig below the tip of the iceberg. I think there's so many things to explore. I also think that, we struggle in this country to make art a priority in government funding, in how people revere it that aren't in the arts world. And maybe through the digital world, we can actually reach more people to show people how important it is. It saved a lot of us during the pandemic, right? I think I finished Netflix last summer because that was such a great thing to have. But I want to point out like what happened in the sports world. When sports started streaming into people's homes, the fear was people weren't going to go to the stadiums, right? The exact opposite happened. More people had access to sports, and they still went to the stadiums once or twice a year. So that's a good thing. The other part of what happened when it was streaming into people's homes, the creativity became part of the experience. So now you can do instant replay, you can do slow-mo, you can do data scrolls, you can have someone with colorful commentary in your ear, you can draw on screens, you can do pop-ups of bios. There's so much creativity to the point where watching it at home is better than going to the stadium. There's a reason why tailgating and Super Bowl parties are a big thing now, because you can create your own experience. And I don't think we've explored that in the arts world. The things we can do, the possibilities of the things that we can do where the digital world and the live world meet is endless. And that's part of the responsibility of all these young artists right now. Like, again, you grew up with these computers in your pockets. We had word processors. So like what you can dream up of is so big. It's so huge. And we need it. We desperately need it. My friends, when polio hit the world, theaters were shut down for 5 years. There was no like hybrid and returning back. It was closed. Drive around the country and see how many former theaters are now CVS's. We are still in the midst of the pandemic. It's not over. So we need ideas, because we still have another 5-6 years of, even if we get to herd immunity and everyone gets vaccinated, we're still going to have years of recovery from this. So let's not waste this time. Let's really dig in and go deeper into the kinds of things we can do and how inclusive we can be with the creativity.
I just have to say, I love the idea of tailgating before going to see a play. Let's do it.
Telling you,
Right.
Going to be great if we embrace it.
Yeah.
Victoria asked, because performers give their most creative and vulnerable sides of themselves to what they do, did you or do you ever find yourself becoming emotionally drained? And if so, what do you recommend for rearching? Have you ever felt like you need a break from pouring so much emotion into what you do? And obviously this comes back to self-care, like you were mentioning.
Yeah, and I will say, Victoria, I did not practice that when I was an artist. I still think I'm an artist, but when I was an actor, I did not practice that. Because again, theater was my life, but theater has to be your job at some point. And so now I know what to do. I know how to take care of myself after I've done so much and done these roles where you are becoming these characters that are going through so many things. So I know how to like recharge. I know how to sort of recenter myself with mindfulness and meditation. I know how to take a break and go for a walk, or take a bubble bath so I can let all of that go. But it's a thing that I think people don't practice. And there's a reason why we call it a practice. There's a reason why Buddhist people say a practice and not a religion, because it takes practice. And so it's something you should practice. And I encourage everyone to come up with a nighttime ritual that you do. So most nights, actually now most mornings, I have a beaded bracelet next to my bed. And before I start my day, I will touch each bead on the bracelet and name something I'm grateful for. And this bracelet has 40 beads. So to start my day, I'm naming 40 things I'm grateful for. That's a great way to sort of recenter myself and get ready for the day. At night, I do a little yoga and I do a little mindfulness, and then I am out like a light. Like I don't remember the nights most of the time because I sleep right through it, which is another great way to recharge yourself. So figure out those self-care practices to let go of the hard work you're doing when you're embracing these roles.
Excellent, thank you.
I think oftentimes folks' challenge with self-care and developing those routines is often rooted in this culture of production, right? If we are, and some of it is out of necessity. So the work we do on a daily basis might mean long hours because of financial commitments. How do we advocate as creative artists for better compensation that takes into account the need for this kind of self-care practice, even in our work?
I think it's collective impact. I think if we all decide these are the new rules, then it's all going to happen. I mean, the work from home, everyone is doing sort of hybrid models because collectively we have all decided important. I think we're soon going to be at the 4-day work week. So if you want better pay or you want self-care to be part of the practice, collectively decide that's what you want and let the people that are in charge know that this is what we're going to be doing.
Just want to invite anyone that wants to share their top self-care tips, put it in the chat. Let's uplift what is working for you, and maybe that will resonate with others, because yes, as Ali puts in the chat, not all self-care is spa themed, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's outside, it's hiking, it's swimming or crocheting or singing. Yeah.
Having a cup of tea and sitting and looking out the window. I mean, it's so many things.
I think during the pandemic, I've never enjoyed or paid attention to fresh air as much as I did. Outside fresh air. And it became a practice without knowing it was becoming a practice, right?
Yeah, that's the weird thing about the gratitude practice, is that in the beginning, it was so hard to think, to name things that I was grateful for. And so what happened over time was that because I charged myself for coming up with 40 things, I was more aware during the day of all the cool, amazing things that are happening to me. And I remember it. So I remember just one day seeing a little dog with floppy ears and just getting like gleefully happy. And I was like, oh, I would never have noticed that like 2 weeks ago. So it makes you notice all the cool things and less the bad things. And also when bad things happen, it becomes not as bad. I love your ideas, friends. Epic naps.
A lot of naps.
Oh my God, naps
That
are
is
amazing.
fair.
Amazing. I just started asking my assistant to book, instead of an hour-long meeting, 50-minute meetings, and instead of 30-minute meetings, 25-minute meetings, just so I can have that 10 minutes or that 5 minutes to clear my brain.
Yeah.
We've got coloring, naps, hot yoga, singing.
Oh, Skyla, while you're reading it, Skyla has a question. What's the most important part about collaborating with design technician?
Mm.
I have such a huge respect for artists, huge respect. And when I'm working with designers, they know more about the design than I do and designing than I do. And their job is to see the show from that design's perspective. So I tend to relent to their idea unless it doesn't tell the story that we want to tell. And then it's a collaboration. But theater, and especially musical theater, to me is the ultimate artistic collaborative form, because you're merging the performing arts with the visual arts and all different kinds of arts coming together. So work with your designers. Their point of view, because that's their job, is a really strong thing to listen to.
Thank you. Just uplifting something put in the chat from Allie. To my exhausted and burnt out gifted kids, accepting that not all your assignments may get done. This really invites us to remember to let go of that perfection, you know, that that is not the goal. The goal is, you know, authenticity and meaningful relationships and self-care.
Yeah.
Yourself up.
Thank you, Allie, for offering that. But perfectionism to me is not a healthy trait. It is not attainable, and to try to achieve it makes us unhealthy. Strive for excellence. That's super healthy. But striving for perfection is unattainable. And so you are planning your disappointment.
These are all amazing. I think we're at that time where we need to wrap up. We have a few more announcements for our attendees. Yeah, I know we could just talk forever, like all night.
I feel grounded just hearing
Yeah.
you, Michael, and just seeing all these wonderful things in the chat. My shoulders have dropped. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom and Vana, for inviting me. This has been incredible. And anyone, reach out to me. I'm at Mass Cultural Council. You can easily find me. I'm at Michael James Bobbitt on Instagram. I love me some Instagram. So I hope I see you soon, and make great theater and change the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ooh.
That was a nice discussion, very inspirational. And I also feel a little bit like a little bit more settled in.
I'll just give that a moment. Let some folks in the chat respond to that. Wonderful. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Michael. And thank you to the student board, to Heloisa and Bella and Justin and Julia for all the work you've done over the past year. We're excited to see the new students that you're going to connect with this week and put together the building blocks of the next year's student advisory board. We've learned a lot and we have a lot of work still to do. So I'm excited about that. I also, before I turn it over to Siobhan for a moment, just want to take a moment to thank our entire Region 1 board. From each discipline that you will engage with over this week. This past year has been a journey of rethinking our festival process, rethinking the rubrics through which we are looking at student work, how we communicate that to our respondents and our selectors, how we communicate with you, the students, again. And I just want to express our deep, deep gratitude for all of the work that they have done to put this week's festival programs together. I'm excited to share some space with them in our general information session in a few minutes. So please join me in a little round of virtual applause just for all of the many hours of effort that they have put in. They're not on camera with us tonight. We invited them to just sit back and relax after a lot of this hard work. So thank you all. And yeah, Siobhan wants to share a few things about how we move forward this week.
Katapataj. Woo, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Vana and Tom, and thank you, Michael, for all of those gems, dropping that wisdom. Just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I just want to echo, the teachers, faculty, guests, students, this time, we see you, we appreciate you. We see you thriving through challenge, and we celebrate you. So as we come together for this festival, we wanted to just have a few moments about some community agreements that we have been working a lot, as Vana mentioned, on nurturing growth, and that understanding that we're all in a process. We have been thinking a lot about unconditional love, unapologetic love, for you as sacred artists. All of you, the work that we are doing is sacred. Our being is sacred. Our art is sacred. So for our communities, for each other, we wanted to just have a couple of agreements going forward, to just say them and speak them into the space. We want to encourage everyone to speak in draft and not speak for others. We also wanted to voice that we want to support each other in our journeys, that some are farther down the path than others. So we want to celebrate each step along the way. Also want to highlight that there is always room for feedback. We need feedback, session ratings and reviews. There's going to be space for this in the virtual lobby. So whenever anything comes to mind, just please pop into the lobby and give feedback. If that space doesn't work for you, please reach out. Our emails are available in our virtual space. So please reach out if you're more comfortable with one-on-one, or if you'd like to do the virtual lobby space. We do need to hear from you. So please let us know how things are going, and have a wonderful festival.
Thank you, Siobhan. She had many more eloquent things to say than I do. Back to kind of the nitty gritty, just in case you encounter this week when trying to log into one of the Zoom sessions through the virtual lobby, if any of the sessions ask for a passcode, it's region 1, capital R with the number 1. Actually, it already happened today at one point. We had a few students reaching out and we pointed them. So Vana just put it in the chat. So just keep that in the back of your mind just in case that happens.
Thanks for that reminder, Tom. Also, I mean, you're here in this Zoom space. If it's been a while since you've updated your Zoom, you may want to do that to give yourself the best possible functionality throughout the week. And so we started a Discord channel, and I say that with a little bit of a laugh because we're all completely, we don't know what we're doing, but it's there. And it's there as a vehicle for you all to engage with. I've popped on a couple of times. I know people are dropping into it. We do have a Discord channel, and it's available to you in your virtual lobby. We would want to provide ways for you to engage with each other, to chat, to ask questions. So, and if anyone wants to, give me a little tutorial, let me know. We'll set up a little Zoom call. But it's there. So join us on Discord. And we'll learn a lot this week.
That's nice. I don't know what Discord is, but you guys have a great time. If anyone is wondering about next steps, this is something that did not appear on our schedule this year. This is something we've been doing for a bunch of years, both in person and virtually last year. Because of our kind of truncated schedule this week, and trying to not over program, We will be holding our next steps at some point in the spring during the spring semester. It will be a region-wide event. Regardless of whether a student has attended the festival this week, it will be open to all students of Region 1, which we will invite four-year universities from our region, as well as professional theater organizations to view auditions or to host interviews for different positions for summer stock, summer internships, professional gigs, and otherwise. So stay tuned for that. We will be at some point in February sending out the information to all the schools in the region about next steps.
Great. So finally, again, a big thank you to Michael Bobbitt for joining us tonight, and to Siobhan and Maurizio and Jenna and Bella and Heloisa, and to Brian Rice, one of our technical directors behind the scenes. Thank you for joining us for this opening session. You've got 5 minutes to stretch your legs, and we hope to see you in the general information session in just a few minutes. Thank you all. Have a great festival.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great festival.